Hi, this is Crystal, and since we are starting a new year, I made a new junk journal. So a junk journal is just a collection of cast off and found materials that I've used an easy binding method to make into a little notebook, and I am going to use this notebook to gather up the found materials that cross my path during the average day, to do a little written journaling, maybe paste in a few photos, but just to record my life as I go along and to do it in a creative and quasi-artistic way. So this is the project that I'm going to be showing, and we're going to start by gathering the supplies. Now this project from beginning to end took me about an hour, but that does not include gathering up the supplies, which I kind of do as I go along. And I've got them sorted by theme into a couple of different clean cardboard boxes. So the theme that I've selected is sunrise, and I'm going through and picking a little bit of copy paper in various colors. I've got some paper bags, I've got some magazine pages, and I'm just going to pick through these few things and choose a couple of items to put into my journal. Now, I particularly favor a journal that is about 6 inches by 9 inches because that will easily hold a piece of standard 8.5 by 11 paper folded in half. Now, an awful lot of office supplies and magazines and craft supplies come in that 8.5 by 11 size, so I find that a really convenient size to work with. So I've just got a few decorative copy papers and colored copy papers that I got for free from various places, and a couple of magazine pages, and I'm just going to arrange those so that they're not all the pink paper together, all the yellow paper together, all the decorated paper together. And I'm going to go ahead and fold those in half so that they will fit onto my twine binding. Now I've selected this binding method because it is very easy to do. It doesn't require any sewing. It doesn't require any special equipment. And it's just very low cost. I also like it because I can pull out some pages if I want to do something kind of wet, like paint. So I have selected this box. This happens to be a cookie box for some Christmas treats. But cereal boxes work really well, or you could use a macaroni and cheese box or whatever comes your way. Now I've got a paper trimmer, so I'm going to use that to make some really straight cuts, but of course a paper trimmer is not really required for this. Since I've got my cover and my pages going all at the same time, I can check as I go along to make sure that I'm getting my pages to the correct size for that particular box. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. There's no right or wrong list of things that you can include. You kind of have to try it to see what you like. Some people like lighter weight paper. Some people like heavier weight paper. Some people are comfortable using all found materials and junk. Some people really want nice, clean craft supplies. But there's not a wrong answer. So I really find junk journaling appealing because of the found nature of some of the supplies. And so the fact that you're recycling something that might otherwise end up in the landfill or going to recycling really appeals to me. But if it doesn't appeal to you, then it doesn't appeal to you, and you don't have to do it that way. Now, I did include a few other fun items. I've got some atlas pages. I've got some big glossy advertisements. I've got this sheet that came in a laptop. I thought that was kind of fun and interesting. I have a couple of pages from a coloring book. These are just things that kind of came my direction that I wanted to include. Now, since I do paste a lot of packaging and found material in as I go along, probably a lot of this will end up covered up anyway. So there's no harm in using absolutely plain paper either. Just depends on what you want. Once I've got everything selected, and I try to get some variation, I've made 3 stacks of pages. and those 3 stacks of pages will fit inside this box that I have selected. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and cover my box. Now this is optional. You can absolutely embrace the box as it comes to you, but I have got this piece of craft paper that I have been using as a painting backdrop, and I kind of like the random nature of the paint on the other side. That's what's going to show on the outside. So I'm going to use that, and I'm just painting the back of this paper with Mod Podge. Now the only difference between this and something like Elmer's glue is that Mod Podge dries a little bit faster. So I've painted an area that matches my box, and I'm just pressing my box into place. I'm using a couple of paperweights to make sure I get a nice flat seal between my box and the cover that I've selected. Now, once I do that, I'm going to mark off the corners at about a 45-degree angle, just to reduce the bulk a little bit. Excuse me. So if you ever covered textbooks as a child, you'll remember this. If you haven't, the process is just very straightforward. We're just going to cut a triangle off of each corner so that the edges won't overlap when we glue the edges down. Now, if you don't want to use a piece of craft paper, then obviously any large piece of paper will do. And so this would be a good application for wrapping paper. If you have some decorative wrapping paper left from Christmas or some other event, that would be a good size for doing this, or a paper bag, a grocery bag, something like that. Now the side of the box that I cut off to make the opening, I did paste on the inside of the spine just to make that a little bit stronger. It's not really required, but I had that extra piece of cardboard and it's exactly the right size. So then I'm going to glue down the edges, wrap them across, use my paperweights to hold them in place while they dry for just a second. So now you can see the inside of my book with the cover wrapped around, and I'm going to paste a little bit of decorative paper on that open area just to cover in the parts that aren't so good looking. So I cut a piece to cover the inside of the spine. That was off of one of the paper bags that I'm including as a page. And once I get that in place, I'm also going to cover the front and the back flap. So I do like to have a nice cover there. There's an envelope from some junk mail that I got from the state of Michigan. So I believe that is a Michigan beach that we're looking at on the inside of the, on the left. And then a magazine page is going to go on the inside on the right. Now all of this is just optional extra. You can certainly just use your cookie box or your cereal box as it comes, but if I see an opportunity to decorate something, I just can't pass it up. So decorating the inside of the cover is just another opportunity to use some pretty something that came into my path, and I like to do it. To spread the Mod Podge, I'm just using a cheap paintbrush. The only thing I will say about that is that you don't really want to mix your paintbrushes between glue and watercolor. You can use glue and acrylic on the same paintbrush, but once you've used a paintbrush for glue, it really is not a good paintbrush for a water medium. Now that I've got my cover completely decorated, we can move on to the next phase, which is twine binding. Now for this, I'm using some elastic cord from Dollar Tree. This is in the craft aisle, so $1.25, you get quite a bit. And I'm just going to wrap this elastic cord around the spine of my box to make sure that I get 3 loops of elastic cord because I have 3 stacks of pages. And then I'm going to tie it so that it's, pretty taut. You just need enough stretch so that you can get those pages in and out. Now you can use regular string if you like, but I find the elastic a little bit easier to work with when I'm getting the pages in and out. So then I'm just going to take my stack of pages and put those over the elastic loop, and then they are in place inside my journal. So I hope that if you're looking for a low-cost hobby that lets you recycle the pretty things that come into your life, you will consider giving junk journaling a try. I think that it's a very fun, creative, relaxing way to spend your time. Thanks for joining me today.